Good evening, boys and girls. It's so nice to be able to talk to you this evening. My name is Miss Joan, and I've been telling stories to children for years and years, but my favorite stories to tell are about Jesus. I wanted to share with you a special book that was given to me when I was just a little girl. My mother bought this book for all of us kids, and she read Bible stories to us every night. One of the special pictures that I just loved was this picture of Jesus and how he loved children. You can just see in his smile that he wants to pick up every one of these children and give them a big hug. And I bet he did too. Jesus loves us so much. And he wants all of you to love other people too, especially at this time when there's so much hurt. And we love everybody, and Jesus told us to do that, and we do it because he loved us so much. The story that I'm going to share with you this evening is the very first story in the Bible, and it's called In the Beginning. It goes like this. In the beginning of the world, there weren't any boys or girls. There wasn't any fathers or mothers. There wasn't anybody at all upon the earth, not in the beginning. And there weren't any animals either. There weren't any kittens to pick up and pet, or doggies to run and bark, or ponies to ride, or any birds to be singing outside. Why, there weren't even any chickens, not back then in the beginning. More than that, there wasn't any sun or moon, or any stars. You couldn't see a thing. It was just pitch black. No grass, no flowers, no trees. There weren't even any stones on the ground. There just wasn't anything at all. But in heaven and everywhere else, there was God. God is the maker of all things. He's the maker of all living and always will be living. God will be there. Of course, we can't understand that right now, but it's true. From eternity to eternity, there is God. God made the angels in heaven. Heaven is a wonderful place. It's God's home, more beautiful than you can think. And there the angels were. All the angels were everywhere, wherever God sent them. And God went everywhere. He was everywhere at once. So God came down with his angels to where this world was to be, and that was the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. All was dark, and there was nothing that had any shape at all. Then God sang because he was happy for what he was going to do, and the angels sang with him. And God spoke and he said, "Let there be light." And suddenly there was light, so that you could see whatever there was to see. But there was nothing to see, only a great lot of water all mixed up. And God set the water to whirling around, so it made a great big ball, which is the earth. While it was turning toward the light, everything was light, and God called that the day. But when it was turned away from the light, everything was dark. God called that the night. And that was the very first day he made the light and the dark. It was very quiet. So the next day God said, "Let there be air to make the sky, and let the sky be between the water on the earth and the water above the sky." And it was so. And then the next day God said, "Let the waters on the earth be gathered together in one place, and let the dry land appear." And yet there was nothing on the earth but bare ground. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, and plants bearing seeds, and fruit trees bearing good fruit." All of a sudden, the earth was a garden. The grass sprang up, and the plants came up with beautiful flowers on them, and the trees grew and grew. Why, yes, you could see them grow. with branches and little twigs and leaves on them to make shade, and flowers to make fruit. Oh, it was a beautiful garden. And that was the third day. But as yet there was no creature on the earth. There wasn't any birds or fish or four-footed animals. If you had been there, you wouldn't have heard a sound except the soft swish of the water. And you wouldn't have seen anything move except the grass and the leaves on the trees as the wind ran through. Still, so still, in the great garden God had made of this earth. Then God said, "Let there be fishes in the sea. Let there be creatures in both sea and land. Let there be birds in the air." And it was so. All the waters swarmed with fishes that could swim. And out of the water came the frogs and the toads and the newts and the salamanders. And on the land and on the water and in the air, the birds were flying high and flying low. And that was the 5th day. Then came the 6th day, and God said, "Let there be living creatures on the earth, four-footed creatures such as cattle and horses and sheep and goats. Let there be creeping things like caterpillars and worms and bugs." I don't know if I like all those bugs, but God made them for a special purpose. And so it was. There were the little cats and the big cats and the mice and the elephants and the rabbits and the horses. God made everything, except there was something missing. And that's the next story. All was still. It was the middle of the 6th day, and God had made everything beautiful in its place. There was the green earth and its grass and its flowers and trees, and there was the blue sea and its little waves lapping on the shore. There were the rivers and brooks and springs and everything. There were birds and animals. But then, in the silence, God spoke, "Let us make man and woman in our image, to be like us. And let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air." And he did. So God took some dust of the ground, and he shaped it into the form of a man. It's very much like your making mud pies, or like the doll makers making a doll out of fine clay and painting it until your dolly looks just like a sure enough baby. Only you can't make your mud pies alive. And the doll maker can't make the dolly live. But that's what God did. There lay the man, all perfect, hands and feet with fingers and toes and arms and legs, and a body and a head, with eyes and nose and ears and hair, just beautiful, but not alive. Then, seems to me, God stooped down to kiss this lovely child of his, and he breathed into man's nostrils the breath of life. And what do you know? Man became a living soul. God called him Adam. When he opened his eyes and looked on the world, his beautiful home, Adam knew right away what it was, for he was full grown. He didn't have to learn to walk, for he could walk, and he didn't have to learn to talk, for he could talk. He didn't have to start eating by taking milk. In fact, there wasn't any milk that he could drink, but there were wonderful fruits all around, strawberries and grapes and apples and oranges, besides wheat and corn, beans and coconuts, and more foods than you could name, and birds to sing and fish to swim, and animals to play and work, a blue sky and a green earth, sun and moon and stars to shine. So Adam was very happy. There was just one thing he didn't have, and that was someone to talk to. Well, he had God to talk to, but he needed something else. And then God said, "It's not good that the man should be alone. I will make a good helper for him. So God put Adam to sleep, and while he slept, God took a piece of him, a rib, from right over his heart, and he healed the place all up again. Then out of the rib he made a woman, just as he had made the man out of dust. She was more beautiful in a way than Adam was. And God breathed into her the breath of life, and she too became a living soul. When Adam woke up, there was the woman right by his side, and he said, "What's your name?" And it was her that asked him that. She said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Adam, what's yours?" And she said, "I don't believe I have any name. I just woke up." So he said, "I'll give you a name. Your name is Eve. Come, Eve, let's go out and look all around and in and through our beautiful home." "All right," she said, "let's do." And they did. That's how human life began on this earth. And that was the end of the sixth day. God's work was finished. Then all the angels sang and shouted for joy, and God sang with them, and Adam and Eve listened and joined in, and everybody and everything sang and were happy, for the world was made. A beautiful garden. They called it the Garden of Eden. Good night, boys and girls. Sleep tight, and remember Adam and Eve in that beautiful garden.